Hello, welcome to a sketchbook tour. This is my first ever sketchbook tour. Pretty excited about it. This is also the first time I have finished a sketchbook in probably at least a decade. That seems like a really long amount of time, and it is. Because when I was in high school and college, I used to love sketchbooking. I kept a lot of sketchbooks, but in like later college years and a little bit after college, for some strange reason, I had several sketchbooks either get stolen or get lost. Get lost, obviously. I lost them whether I was moving or I just lost it. And I had a couple of sketchbooks get stolen as well. Not like somebody was out to get my sketchbook and somebody was out to steal my sketchbook, but you know, it would like be in a bag or something and somehow the bag would get stolen. I think one got stolen when somebody broke into my car and like stole some things out of my car. You know, things happen. So it kind of took the wind out of my sails a little bit at that time. And then I also went through a period of time when I really wasn't making a lot of art. And so it's been a long time since I've finished a sketchbook. Honestly, it might be longer than a decade. I'm not sure. It's been a minute. So a few years ago, I decided to buy this particular sketchbook because this sketchbook is very similar to the ones that I used to use in high school and college that I enjoyed so much. This one in particular is a Canson mixed media sketchbook. I don't really need to tell you that because I think I explain that in the next part of the video when I'm actually showing you what's inside of it. It's a spiral bound, which is not something that I would choose now, but it was something that I would choose back in the day. And I really wanted to get a sketchbook that was very, very similar to the ones that I used to use so that I could sort of bring back some of that nostalgia and feel feel some of the same feelings that I felt when I used to use sketchbooks a lot. And so it could kind of like, I don't know, just get me back into it, I guess. So I bought this sketchbook some years ago. It stayed in a drawer for a long time. And then 2 years ago, I picked it up and started playing in it and really made it a priority to work in it occasionally and to use it, to actually use it, not just let it sit in a drawer. And it feels really good to have finished this. And it makes me excited to work through other sketchbooks and also altered books that I have. So I've been working in other sketchbooks. I just started a couple of altered books. If you're not familiar with an altered book, it is when you thrift a book just for the cover and for the size and for the feel of the paper. And then you usually I use a glue stick. Sometimes I'll use like Mod Podge or something like that to glue together some of the pages just to make them thicker. And then you just go to town on that book. So it feels a little bit weird at first, like, oh, I'm not supposed to be doing this to a book, an actual bound book that was published and sold and everything. But it's a lot of fun. I would highly recommend it. And once I finish one of those, I'll do a tour of one of those as well. So, but today we're going to be touring this lovely sketchbook. This is let's see, I think it is, yeah, it's 9x12, Canson mixed media sketchbook. I probably would not choose a sketchbook again, just because my preferences are different at this point, but it was still a lot of fun. So we're gonna get into it now, and I hope you enjoy the tour. Okay, I'll see you later. Okay, here we go. So I'm a little bit strange in that I work through all of my sketchbooks and notebooks and journals backwards. I have been doing this since I was in high school. In middle school, I noticed that I preferred flipping through magazines backwards. And then one day in high school, I was like, why don't I just work through my own personal things backwards, since that's how I feel most comfortable doing that. So all of my journals, all of my notebooks that I keep, and my sketchbooks, I work through them backwards. Of course, I say all of my sketchbooks. This is actually as I said in the intro, this is the first sketchbook I've fully worked through in probably a decade or more. So, but I've got several other sketchbooks that I've been slowly working through for the last few years as I've tried to get back into sketchbooking, and I work through all of those backwards as well. So apologize if it is strange, irritating, tickles a weird side of your brain, but that's just what I do. That's how I am. So on the other hand, perhaps some of you are like, oh, maybe I want to work through a sketchbook or a notebook backwards, and I would highly recommend it. If it feels good to flip through things backwards, then maybe try working through a personal book backwards. So let me be your inspiration. I'm here for you. As such, that can get a little bit weird sometimes with like how something is oriented. Oftentimes I have to flip a book over upside down. So like this would typically be the way that you would work through this book. And for some reason this was a weird one. It had like several covers on the front and back. So I'm not really sure how this one worked itself out, but this is how it would typically be, how you would typically work through something like this, and I just will flip it over and work through it like that. So this is a Canson mixed media sketchbook, and I bought it kind of on a whim just because I wanted to try to get back into sketchbooking, and I wanted to buy a cheap sketchbook that I didn't have to care about. When I was in college, I worked through a lot of sketchbooks that had this spiral bound situation, and I also wanted to get a cheap one so that I wouldn't feel so precious about it. I have a tendency of getting too precious with my things, and as a result I won't really use them to their fullest extent, and so I'm very aware of that, especially in my art practice. And so that's why I got this sketchbook. This first drawing is an outline of my house. When we first moved here, I wanted to draw out our house and property so that I could start designing layout and whatnot. I completely abandoned this page, and I never did anything with this page, and that's okay. Sometimes in a sketchbook, even back in the day when I used to use sketchbooks regularly, I would maybe leave the first page or two blank. Something about doing that helped me get into it. There was something about the first page, the first blank page, that felt intimidating to me. What is that about? I'm not sure, but I would just skip it over entirely and just jump right into the middle of the sketchbook. So that's what we did here. I just abandoned this page altogether. I'm gonna say that it doesn't even exist. It's fine. These were a couple of pictures that I took just sort of around the area. We lived pretty close to the mountains, and I had taken some pictures of the mountains, and I was just kind of trying to get used to using gouache. Like, I hadn't really used gouache before, and I wanted to try it, and I wanted to try it really casually, and so I tried it in here. I'm not a fan of this page at all. I just think they look kind of sloppy and boring, but it was a good intro into gouache, I think. One thing that I need to constantly remind myself of with a sketchbook is that it is casual. It can be ugly, if you will, and it's okay. It doesn't matter. Like, that's part of the purpose of the sketchbook, is to have fun, to make mistakes, and to not worry about the result as much. This one over here is it's actually a tattoo that I did some years ago, and I really liked the design, and so every now and then I'll go through, I have these like manila envelopes full of my old tattoo designs, because if you're not familiar with tattoos, typically you'll make your design, you'll print it out, and then from there you'll make a stencil, and that will go on the person that you're tattooing. So you end up with stacks of these like drawings like this, only it would be cut out, and then that's what you would make your stencil out of. A lot of like older shops that you go into have just walls and walls covered in old tattoo designs, which is very cool. I do that still, but you'll have to go through those because you just build up quite, you amass a good many of them. Every now and then I'll break them out and I'll go through them and I'll pick out some designs that I want to revisit. And I decided I wanted to try drawing it. And specifically I wanted to give it a shot with oil pastels. Another thing I wanted to do with the sketchbook is I wanted to try mediums that I hadn't used before, or maybe it had been a really long time since I had used them. So that's what some of this is. I had never tried gouache before, and so I wanted to try that, or since I'd used oil pastels and I wanted to give those a try. And I really like how this came out. It's really fun to see a tattoo design in such a loose, textural, fine art format, because with a tattoo, I try to make my tattoos as crispy as I can. I'm very passionate about crispy lines and smooth, fully saturated coloring and that sort of thing. So it's really fun to me to see a tattoo design. I know what this tattoo looked like, and I know how like crispy and soft and smooth everything was, and then to see it all sort of chunky and maybe the lines are a little bit messy and more gestural. So much fun to me. This page, oh boy. Over here I had the idea to do the same thing that I had done on this page, where I would do like, you know, one of a couple different landscapes. But I did this one landscape, and with this one I was trying to use some techniques that I had used in the past that I just hadn't used in a really long time. I used to do these like different shapes and different mark makings way back in the day, like high school and college. I would make these flowers that were just like sticks with a circle and a bunch of dots inside. They were more so, it kind of reminded me now of like a seed pod, maybe from like a coneflower or a daisy or something like that, where you just have, you know, all of the petals have fallen off and you're just left with this little pod, so to speak. Is this close enough? Can y'all see this? Hang on. Okay, let's try this. So I was trying a bunch of different mark making that I used to do back in the day, sort of shapes that I used to do. And I'm like, it's like fine, it's okay, but it was still fun to try it out. And then I completely abandoned this section, so it is what it is. That's part of the whole sketchbook thing, right? And then over here, this was from a reference photo that I took of some pears that I harvested from our pear tree that we have. And then this is also a reference photo from nearby. These are just a couple drawings of my cat. Not very good at casually drawing animals or drawing like cute shapes of animals. Oh, should I show you this? Oh, I don't know. I was trying to do like the whole just very round, you know, very chibi sort of style of a cat, and I'm not very good at it. I am good at the more tattoo style, illustrative, you know, where it's like more detailed and whatnot. And I'm embarrassed to say that I'm not good at the chibi style or the cute, round, simplified animals. I wish I was better at that. It is what it is. Okay, it's fine. Ah, here's another one. This was trying other mediums, trying to combine mediums, and it went horribly wrong. It did not do what I wanted it to do. I am, however, very pleased with the sky in this one. I think that's super fun. So the sky is okay. Everything else is whatever. This is another one. I was trying to mix some mediums together that really weren't wanting to be mixed. And over here I was trying some like mark making that I used to do way back in the day. I have no idea why I put this here, so there's that. Oh, this one was fun. This is another tattoo design. And then this over here is just a plant that I had, and I wanted to try gouache again, and I was just sort of trying stuff. So, yeah. It was really pretty outside and the daffodils had just bloomed, and so I went outside to paint. I took a lot of artistic liberties with this because we do not have a creek on our property at all. But so that was a lot of fun, and then I also went around and I just sort of drew random things that I saw. I'm not sure what I used here. It looks like, I think it's called a tombow pen. Had I just gotten the tombow pen? Let's see if I can find it. Here it is. I think it's called a tombow pen. Yeah, tombow. Let's see if I can get that to focus. I think that's the pen I used for this because I had just gotten it and I remember being really excited about it. And it definitely creates a little bit more gestural marks than a Sharpie pen, which is my usual go-to. I love a Sharpie pen. So, but I think this one was a tombow, I think. One of my favorite pages. This was the same reference photo, if you can tell. Same reference photo is a photo that I took on our trip out west. This was from somewhere in New Mexico. I have no idea where we were. I would just take pictures throughout the trip. And I was just smitten with these like pink mountains that they have, and big sky, and just endless roads. It's so flat besides these like pink mountains in the distance that the sky is huge out there. With these, I think I definitely used gouache. I can definitely see that up in here. I used gouache. I used that tombow pen. I remember that. It's a posca marker, and they are so much fun. This one ended up being a Patreon postcard. I don't have my Patreon up and running anymore. I took a break from it because I just didn't really have a lot of interest in it. I did really enjoy having a Patreon. I love sending people happy mail. I think I would enjoy doing Patreon again if I had more interest in it. But for now, I'm just gonna focus on other things, and I might revisit that later. And then this one I ended up scanning this and making it into a canvas print, and I love this print so much. This was just sort of random, pulled up a bunch of pictures on the internet and did some drawing and practicing and whatnot. Anyways, that one was just for fun. Oh, this one was great. I love drawing and painting fruit. So it was cool to like make my own reference photos with some of the branches and the fruits. I used gouache. I think this was the tombow. It's really cool to me to see how much more comfortable I am with gouache here versus when I first started trying it out. Like, you can see how messy it is and how, like, I can see how uncomfortable I am with the medium here. But after trying it a few times, I tried it again here. No, that's acrylic, never mind. Where else did I try it? I tried it again here. Super uncomfortable. Feels weird. And then I tried it again here. I can tell I'm getting a little more comfortable. That one is still pretty uncomfortable, but it's okay. I'm getting better. This one I can see I'm really starting to get more comfortable with it. And then this is like, chef's kiss. It's so good. I really love this piece. And then this over here, I was doing a bunch of thumbnails for other landscapes. It's funny to me, sometimes I actually prefer my thumbnails over like the finished product, which is, I don't know, they're so fluid and they're so gestural and free and loose, and I love them. So that's funny to me. That's pretty consistent throughout my work. Over here, this I believe was pretty much all poscas, except for, no, I think that was posca too, like the little itty bitty branches. This was all poscas. This was sort of a mix of different things, and I was trying out some different color combos and whatnot. This one I abandoned altogether. If I'm really wanting to work on wet media, then I'll just skip a page and maybe I just won't even come back to it. That's fine. I make the rules. This one I have no idea. This looks like gouache to me, but what I was trying to accomplish here, who knows? We're just gonna move on. This was gouache again. These were some oak leaf hydrangeas that we have right outside our door. The previous owners had planted them. When we first moved here, I kept hearing about oak leaf hydrangeas, and that was actually one of the things on the listing for the house that was like, it has oak leaf hydrangeas, and I was like, who cares? What is that? But oh my gosh, they are so beautiful. I love them. And I found out that they're native to this area, which is very cool. I've painted these a lot. I painted this guy, and I turned this into a Patreon postcard. I've also painted them. These are some, you can see, these are some thumbnails for a diptych that I did of the oak leaf hydrangeas. A diptych, if you don't know, is when you do 2 separate paintings that are meant to go together. And then if you do 3 separate paintings that are meant to go together, then it's a triptych. I didn't really intend for it to be a diptych, but I just wanted to paint multiples of them because I was enjoying them. But they're the same size and they're fairly similar, and they just kind of ended up going together. And I actually ended up selling the pair of them to someone here in town. She bought them to go together, which was very cool. And now they live in her very, very beautiful bathroom. Let's see. Yep, okay, so these were just some more fun paintings. Actually, this was an itty bitty teeny tiny little landscape that I did that I really liked, and so I cut it out and scanned it, and now I make these huge prints of it, which is a lot of fun. It's so cool that you can take an itty bitty teeny tiny painting and blow it up and turn it into a massive print. It completely changes it, and it's so much fun to see it when that happens. So this is some more just playing. I really was into this sketchbook last year in 2023. That's very cool. More just sort of playing around with themes that I would have in my tattoo career. I've tattooed a lot of apples. I was trying out some gouache with the apples. I was also trying at this, I remember this one, I was trying to play around with some background colors. I wanted to get a black that wasn't really black. I wanted like a really, really dark background for a white flower. And so I was trying that with these, trying to figure out some color combos to get that sort of dark background feeling without it necessarily being a true black. Do lots of thumbnails. Oh, okay, some more landscapes. These are fun. These are more images from our trip out west that we took in 2021. These are like from the same trip where you saw the reference for the New Mexico picture. But this was Colorado, and I can't remember where these two were, but I do remember that this was Colorado because there are those red rocks that like stick out. I can't remember what they're called, but they were so pretty and so cool. And then these over here are thumbnails for some rhododendrons that I painted. I only ended up painting one of them. I don't know why I didn't continue painting them, and I think I should probably do a series or a collection of these. So maybe that will be in my future. Oh, these were fun. These, I was revisiting some shapes that I had used way back in the day, like high school and college. Especially college. I really remember these in college, these sort of like squiggly fun trees. And then, oh yes, Sweet Betsy Trillium. They're one of my favorite things to find on a hike in like early March. They're these pretty large, sort of tropical looking flowers. They have like these speckles. They're not like round speckles. They're like these little square speckles on the leaves, and then they have these dark purple flowers right in the middle, and they just sort of are scattered about on a trail. Really pretty. So yeah, this was again trying to figure out like a background color for these white flowers, and I ended up turning this into a Patreon postcard. Love that one. This is some sketches of bloodroot, which is another flower that you'll find on a hike in early March. Another really beautiful flower, but it is called bloodroot because it is poisonous. So there's that. These, oh yeah, okay. So I was planning for an art show that I was in November 2023 called Art Room in Greenville, South Carolina, and I was just sort of working out some different compositions and sort of playing around with what I was wanting to what I was wanting to do for the show. I have no idea what this was. I think this was leftover paint from a painting. I was probably working on a landscape and just had like the sort of muddy colors left over, and I just made a little painting out of it. Not super happy with it, but that's okay. That's totally fine. I think, yeah, this is more art room stuff, more compositions. Oh, so fun. Oh, more compositions for art room. This here, I had this late night thought pop into my head, you know, when you're falling asleep and you're like, ah, a brilliant idea. Yes, I must do that in the morning. But it just didn't quite work out how I liked, and I never finished the thought, so to speak. I never like fully fleshed it out. So maybe I'll revisit that. I've got it in the sketchbook now, which is nice to sort of like put down some ideas. And I did that kind of in the middle of a bunch of other composition sketches for the art room show. Fun. And then these, my most recent collection, which I haven't even released yet. I had meant to release it earlier, and a bunch of other work stuff kind of got in the way. This over here you can probably barely see, but this was some practice for some pottery pieces that I was working on. And then these, I think this was really just like trying to fill some pages. I was just sort of trying some different things. And that about wraps it up, y'all. I did not finish the last page. If I want to skip it, I skip it. I make the rules. I'm the boss of the art, and if I say I'm not going to do the last page, then I'm not. So there's that. Okay, well, what'd you think? Did you like it? The sketchbook is a little bit messy, a little bit trashy, and also a little bit cool. It's fun to sort of see things evolve and see all the different array of things that one can create. This was a fun sketchbook. I really enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed watching the sketchbook tour. I hope you don't think I'm too weird for working through my sketchbooks backwards, but I don't know, maybe this will inspire some of you to work through a sketchbook or a journal backwards as well, if you feel so inclined. I hope I can be that inspiration for you and a little bit of that permission, right? Sometimes we just feel like we need permission. We need somebody else to say, it's okay. It's okay if you feel a little bit different than everybody else, or it's okay if you want to do something different. So it's okay if you want to wear this thing or try this new thing that you haven't tried before. I think most of the time people don't actually care about that stuff at all, but it still just feels nice to hear somebody else say, that's fine, just do it. Just do it. Just work through your sketchbook backwards. Work through your journal backwards. Just do it. So I hope you liked the video, and I hope you come back for another video, and I will see you in that next video. Okay, see you later.